Okay, I wanted to apologize again for the disaster today during our lecture, but just to kind of recover some of that information, I did want to show you what I actually had intended to show you in the first place. So this is on slide 18 of the chapter 6 PowerPoint, and the question is, where does cellular respiration take place? So for this, we want to be able to label all the membranes and spaces in the mitochondrion. So for the mitochondrion, remember that it has two membranes. It has an outer membrane and it has an inner membrane. So this would be the outer membrane. And then the inner membrane for the mitochondria is all wrinkly like this. And the purpose for this is actually to increase surface area. It actually increases the surface area for the electron transport chain to happen so that you have a lot of area for the electron transport chain to take place. So this is the inner membrane. Okay, and then we have to label the spaces. So the innermost space, which is right on the very inside, this is called the matrix. So this space is the matrix. This is going to be the location for a lot of the cellular respiration steps. So the preparatory reaction is going to take place here, and the Krebs cycle are going to take place here. The other space that we have is right in between the inner and the outer, and this is called the intermembrane space, okay, or the IMS. So that is the space in which we're going to actually be pumping protons for the electron transport chain. And so we're going to end up building up a proton gradient inside this intermembrane space. The parts of cell respiration, remember we have 4 steps just to kind of go over where these different events are happening. Remember that we mentioned that glycolysis takes place out in the cytoplasm. Glycolysis is taking place in the cytoplasm, and this is creating the pyruvate that will then be shuttled into, just draw, this is our pyruvate that is created in the process of glycolysis. The pyruvate will be shuttled all the way in to the matrix where the process of pyruvate oxidation or the preparatory reaction will take place. That will completely oxidize the carbons that went into this process. Or not, I'm sorry, not completely oxidize. We'll oxidize one of those carbons and give off CO2, and then that will create acetyl-CoA that can then go into the Krebs cycle. So the Krebs cycle, again, will happen in the matrix. And all of these processes are going to create NADH and FADH2, which again are our electron carriers. Those electrons will then feed into the final step, which is the electron transport chain. And the electron transport chain actually takes place along the inner membrane. So those proteins that carry that process out, they are transmembrane proteins. They are found in the inner membrane. This process of electron transport chain is when we are going to be pumping protons into this intermembrane space, building up a gradient, and those protons are going to come back down through a very special protein that we've already discussed, which is ATP synthase. So ATP synthase will be found here in the membrane, ATP synthase. And remember that molecular motor is going to be spinning around and producing ATP. Okay, so this whole process is going to generate the ATP that we need for cellular respiration. It is going to oxidize the glucose to produce CO2, and it is going to reduce the oxygen to produce water. Okay, I hope this clears up what we missed out on today. We will talk more about this in class on Wednesday.